G'day folks, Scott here. Today I'm reviewing Thor Ragnarok. This movie was directed by Taika Waititi, who is a New Zealand director who made a couple of really funny comedies, one called What We Do in the Shadows and the other called Hunt for the Wilder People. If you've never seen either of those movies, I strongly recommend them. They're really good. So I went into this expecting what I got, which was more of a comedy, and I really enjoyed it. Now, to put that in context, although I really enjoy the Marvel Cinematic Universe and I've enjoyed pretty much all the movies they've made, Thor #1 is hands down my least favorite movie. I didn't like Thor as a character. I'm not a comic book guy. That was my first introduction to him. I thought it was camp, it was overacted, it was silly, it was kind of boring. I just didn't dig it. I thought Loki was a shit bad guy. I just really, nothing with me connected on that movie. I was pleasantly surprised by both of them in the Avengers. I thought both those characters stepped up a lot and were made to be more interesting. Thor 2 was pretty good, and I've gotten used to those characters as time goes on. But yeah, I really do like the cinematic universe. It's just they weren't my favorite part of it. This movie has definitely gone down more of the path of Guardians of the Galaxy. Like I said, it's more of a comedy. It's set more in space. There's more like contemporary Earth music in it, and like not pop songs, but classic songs and whatnot. It was really well done. I had a good laugh. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I love the New Zealand accent. The director plays this character. This is going to be totally spoiler free, but he plays this kind of like rock kind of character, sort of like thing from the Fantastic Four, but with a flat out New Zealand accent. Some really good, well written lines. Like, he was definitely the funniest part of the movie. I enjoyed it immensely. Thor was fine. Kate Blanchett was a bad guy. She was pretty good. Wasn't bad. Wasn't great. She was fine. Idris Elba's back in it. Carl Urban was in it. They had obviously Loki's back in it again. It was good. I really enjoyed it. I had a good time. The special effects were cool. It was pretty well paced. It was just over 2 hours long. It didn't feel like it. I didn't feel like I was wanted to look at my watch and get the hell out of there or anything. As always, there's stingers at the end in the credits, as there is with all Marvel movies. It told a pretty interesting story. It's Thor wanting to, redeem himself in the eyes of Asgard and go back and sort of save that thing. So, during the time when Avengers Age of Ultron had ended and Hulk had gone off in the jet, and you never saw him again throughout the rest of these Marvel films, and Thor was absent in later ones as well. So this is what they had been often doing. It's 2 years since the end of Age of Ultron, and I liked what had happened with it. Hulk was cool. He had some good stuff in there. He speaks a lot more than he had previously. But yeah, I think the fundamental thing I come back to this is that it was funny. Some of the jokes were a little forced, but for the most part, I really enjoyed it. Jeff Goldblum was funny as the Grand Master, I believe he was called. There was some really cool action sequences. Obviously, like Guardians of the Galaxy, very special effects and CGI driven. Lots of like crazy flashy shit going on. Very colorful, just like the Guardians movies. Yeah, it was a good time. I don't have heaps to say about it. Like, I enjoyed it. I recommend it. If you're this far into the Marvel Universe, then clearly you're going to keep going with the Marvel Universe. I'm glad they're still, on point. I think with the Marvel films, having Kevin Feige as that producer and overseer of them, going right back to the Incredible Hulk, the Edward Norton movie, and him having that fundamental sort of input on these movies the entire way through, it really shows that they're conjoined. They've really got their act together. That's something that DC is still all over the place with. They have, Wonder Woman, which was fantastic. Batman versus Superman, that everyone was a bit pretty sketchy with. Suicide Squad, that most people kind of hate. I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with Justice League later in the year, but I've not seen any trailers or anything for that. So, I don't know how that's going to pan out, but it'd be interesting to see how that goes with Joss Whedon now on board, finishing up for Zack Snyder due to very, unfortunate circumstances. So, yeah. Go and see it. It was good. It was fun. Obviously we've got the next Avengers films coming out next year, which I believe is a 2-part movie that'll be 1 year after the other, called Infinity Wars. And I'm very intrigued to see where it's all going to go. So it was good. Go see it. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.